let's get on to, I think, the big news that came out yesterday in Formula One. The FIA have confirmed that the Formula One race director, Niels Wittich, has stepped down from his role effective immediately with 3 race weekends remaining. Now, Wittich has been working as an F1 race director since 2022, initially sharing the job with Eduardo Freitas, as both men replaced Michael Masi before Wittich took over the full-time role last year. Now, while the FIA have acknowledged that Wittich's alleged resignation in a statement, according to Motorsport Magazine, Wittich was actually fired. Now, this comes a day before Liberty Media announced that the CEO, Greg Maffei, is also stepping down at the end of the year, and John Malone will become the interim CEO of Liberty Media. Now, Rui Marquez was named as Wittich's replacement starting at next weekend's Las Vegas Grand Prix. He has experience working as a track marshal, scrutineer, national and international steward, deputy race director, and most recently, of course, over the last 2 seasons, he's been the race director in Formula 2 and Formula 3. The photo courtesy there of Formula One. They were the 2 men actually as well, because Rui Marquez has been serving as the deputy race director after Herbie Blash left the role mid last season, after he was brought in to stabilise the control room. Well, does it make sense for Niels Wittich to leave his race director role with the season nearly finished? And what do you make of the report about him getting fired instead of voluntarily stepping down?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense with 3 races left to go. If he was going to step down, surely he would have waited until the end of the season. So that means he was fired. And this has all come about after the US Grand Prix debacle with Max and Lando. Then there was some comments at Mexico the week after about that and other things, which we'll get to in a second. Obviously, there was much going on in Brazil. A lot of it out of Niels' hands, I guess, because with the rain and the on-track incidents in the qualifying session on Sunday, which seemed to take a week to complete with all the red flags. But yeah, I mean, again, this is, I will say again, I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. I know we can't do it, but please can we have Charlie Whiting back? Because none of this happened. None of this rubbish was going on when Charlie had his hand on the control. God rest his soul. But it's since then it's just gone absolutely mental, hasn't it? With all the changes, as you mentioned, we had Michael Masi, then we had Freitas and Wittich together. Wittich came from DTM, of course. Freitas from the World Endurance Championship. Freitas has gone back to do WEC and left Wittich here. Now he's gone. Rui Marquez stepping up from F2 and F3, so he's got plenty of experience within the paddock and how everything works and stuff. So he'll have a busy weekend, couple of weekends in Qatar and Abu Dhabi coming up. Josh, won't he? He'll need to lay down after those 2 if he's going to be doing all of that.
He's doing them all as well.
6 or 7 races across the whole weekend, plus any supports that he might end up doing. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, this is not a stepping down, but he was probably asked to step, or asked to step aside or whatever. So differing reports from where you hear them over this last 24 hours on this one.
Yeah, and it's come as a massive shock as well. Nobody expected this. The teams didn't expect it. The drivers haven't expected it as well. But there has been a lot of vocal things in the paddock as well. And if we can just shift back in time, the biggest rumour seems to have come from the fact that Niels Wittich has had a falling out with the FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Now, this seems to come after both of them were sort of directly attacked by the Grand Prix Drivers Association, who took to a fresh Instagram page and a fresh post that they put out last Thursday. We've got it up for you now on the screen to read it through. This is a GPDA statement regarding driver misconduct, and it states, as is the case with every sport, competitors must abide by the referee's decision, whether they like it or not. Indeed, whether they agree with it or not. That is how sports work. The drivers, our members, are no different and fully understand that. Our members are professional drivers racing in Formula One, the pinnacle of international motorsport. They are the gladiators, and every racing weekend they put on a great show for the fans. With regards to swearing, there is a difference between swearing intended to insult others and more casual swearing, such as you might use to describe bad weather or indeed an inanimate object, such as a Formula One car or a driving situation. We urge the FIA president to also consider his own tone in language when talking to our member drivers or indeed about them, whether in a public forum or otherwise. Further, our members are adults. They do not need to be given instructions via the media about matters as trivial as the wearing of jewellery and underpants. The GPDA has on countless occasions expressed its views that the driver monetary fines are not appropriate for our sport. For the past 3 years, we have called upon the FIA president to share the details and strategy regarding how the FIA's financial fines are allocated and where the funds are spent. We have also relayed our concern about the negative image financial fines brings to the sport. We once again request that the FIA president provides financial transparency and direct open dialogue with us. All stakeholders, FIA, F1, the teams and the GPDA should jointly determine how and where the money is spent for the benefit of our sport. The GPDA wishes to collaborate in a constructive way with all the stakeholders, including the FIA president, in order to promote our great sport for the benefit of everyone who works in it, pays for it, watches it, and indeed loves it. We are playing our part. Best regards, the directors and chairman of the GPDA, on behalf of the Grand Prix drivers as well. Now, that first 2 paragraphs there, where they talk about the drivers are no different and fully understand that, and they're respecting the FIA, the referee's decision. The referee is Niels Wittich. He's the FIA race director. This comes after problems at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, where then in the drivers' meeting on Thursday, they received what we understood to be reporting that they were lectured by Niels Wittich and talked to like a bunch of naughty school children. That has not gone down very well. This comes after problems in Mexico City and at the United States Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas, where all this dates back to beginning, whether or not the drivers agreed with what happened between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. There was also a number of procedural problems that weekend that has forced the hand of the drivers. Now, fast forward to the second part of the paragraph with regards to swearing. That's the latest crusade after the Singapore Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen swore in the press conference and was given a day's community service. Comparison, Charles Leclerc swore accidentally in a press conference, immediately apologised, and was only given a €10,000 fine. And then followed down about jewellery and the underpants. That comes from Niels Wittich and Mohammed Ben Sulayem. You might remember the crusade against Lewis Hamilton for wearing jewellery. I was quite vocal about it on the show myself. I thought it was a pointless matter, and I was actually on the side of the FIA. But I was also on the side of Lewis Hamilton. Just sign a non-disclosure, just sign, I'm fine, medical waiver, all done. The drivers, however, have still received pressure from Niels Wittich, the race director, who is desperate to run it his way. Also, in terms of the FIA president talking about the drivers, that's come after numerous things over the past couple of years where the FIA have been putting themselves in the spotlight rather than the drivers. So, coming back on the screen, Matt, I'll bring you on this as well. Drivers revolting, FIA in turmoil. It's just standard Formula One, isn't it? But how key is it for the FIA to need to withdraw with awesome speed the fact that they are now once again the spotlight in this sport, not the drivers?
The drivers are revolting. I mean, has there ever been a Formula One related press release that has got the 2 words gladiators and underpants in? What a world we live in. I'm with you on the jewelry thing with Hamilton. We talked about it at the time. Just let him get on with it. Whatever, it's his life. Do whatever you do. The underpants thing, it was just stupid. And you're right. The FIA need to continue to run the sport, but not be involved in the sport of the sport, if that makes sense. John Todd, when he was the FIA president, not so many moons ago, we didn't hear from, I said this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Max Verstappen and the swearing thing. We didn't hear from John Todd. He was too busy trying to get his Nobel Peace Prize for road safety, which he didn't get. And just let them get on with it. I don't understand why MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, has to be involved in and the talking about the rappers and the swearing thing after Singapore, around the Singapore Grand Prix. It's just, what are you doing? Just keep your mouth shut. It's not about you. This is about Formula One and the drivers and the sport. Two key differences in the Verstappen and Leclerc thing that you mentioned, Josh. Leclerc, that was an accident. Max's wasn't an accident. He was trying to prove a point there, and it's backfired on and bit him on the bum. I truly believe that Charles just slip of the tongue in Mexico or Brazil, whenever that was, and then made an error, which is why his punishment was different to Max's. But the GPDA have come out and put the statement out last week. I think we'll get through this triple header, another triple header that we've got to come over the next 3 weeks, and then perhaps over the winter and before everyone gets back together again in Bahrain for pre-season, that there'll be hopefully there will be some changes, because the on-track product this year, okay, at the start of the season it was a little bit dull, but since everybody's caught up to Red Bull, what a terrific season it's been. But off the track, all we've heard is all this rumbling around all of this stuff that really just doesn't matter. And at the end of this, it's now ended up costing Niels Wittich his job, which is a disappointment for him and a disappointment for the FIA, because now they've got to try and go out and find another permanent race director, which is very different from the stewards. Again, he just passes the things off to the stewards. Here, look at this. This is what I think you should look at, and then they make their decisions from there. So again, we had this question a couple of years ago after the Michael Massey stuff at Abu Dhabi. Who are they going to find to fill this void? Again, we have to now question this over the winter before we get to Melbourne in March for the first Grand Prix. Who are they going to have now to come in and be the new race director? That there isn't that many candidates around that have got huge experience, and I'm going to guarantee you that Eduardo Freitas doesn't want to come back.